Hi YouTube friends, hope you guys are doing well. I can't believe that the first quarter of this year is gone already and I haven't even had the chance to do my commentaries. So I decided to take a little bit of time and to work through the comments on the YouTube channel, just all the questions that you guys had for the past couple of months. Yeah, so I think just one thing just coming up in April and May, remember all the guys that got your own businesses, especially in reconciliation times, remember all your RP5s has got to be in, you've got to do your workman compensation returns as well. So those are the two big things that's up at the moment. But let me quickly run through my commentaries and see what I can answer for you guys. So the first one was from Vision Care. So let's quickly see. There is a pop-up instruction that reads, the Sage Bank Feed account requires authorization of bank account credentials. Please guide on how to do this. So what would happen? Obviously on the demo company, I don't think that the bank feeds are working, but this is the place where you would go to your bank feeds, and then you'll see that you're going to have a couple of buttons over here, but there's going to be a button over there that says update login details, and then you just need to go in there, put your username and password and just update, then it will obviously update that. It normally takes like 24 hours after that for it to start working again. So if you update it now, then probably by tomorrow it will start working again. If it doesn't work by the next day, then we would normally tell the people to deactivate the bank link and then just set it up again from the beginning. For some reason, the banks or Sage does it, it locks the people out every couple of months, then you just have to update your stuff again. So it's a very common thing with Sage, and even the other accounting packages, Xero and QuickBooks, they all do it. I don't know why it's stupid. Next question. Terence, so if a client pays 50% of a quote as a deposit, how do I do 50% of total invoice? So what you would do, so if you go to your customers, and it depends on you've got a customer quote, and that guy pays 50%, what you would normally do is if you would go over there and say create invoice, so then it creates an invoice from the quote that you did. But now I can see over here as all the amounts that he paid. So obviously this quote is 5,500 rand. So if the car pays 4,000, let's call it 3,000 rand, and you press save, then it's going to show that the outstanding balance is still due. So that is the correct way to do it. There is another way to do it as well. It's not recommended because otherwise you're going to create a couple of invoices, but as to add a line over here, we put the 50% deposit part through as a minus amount, but it's not ideal to do that. So I would rather just take the quote, convert it to an invoice so that you've got your full amount. So because what will then happen is if this instance the client request for a statement, then you'll be able to see that there was a quote for 50%, or obviously send the quote out, so the invoice will be for the full amount. It will show that he paid 50%, and the 50% is then balance due that he's got to pay on the invoice. Yeah. The other option would be is just to make out an invoice to the guy, so invoice of 50% of the amount quoted on invoice or on quote number whatever the quote number was. But it's not ideal. It's best to just take the quote that you got and convert it over to the customer invoice. Quickly see Denise. So thanks for the videos of a franchise customer whose franchise is purchased from me. However, I invoice the individual franchisees to the franchisor. Month-end statement has over 100 invoices on the franchise, takes 10% settlement discount on the statement, not the individual invoices that the franchises receive. How do I process the discount? I cannot do it on invoice. When issuing the invoice goes to franchise, put it on a discount in the bank at the drop down. It shows insufficient funds to allocate the invoice. I think the best thing for you would probably be to go and fiddle with this screen. So if you go to customers and you go to transactions, you see there's one that says customer adjustments, where you can adjust amounts on invoices. So if I go to add customer adjustment, I say that I want to use that one, perhaps as for instance I want to decrease it. You're going to say whether there's VAT involved. So over here, so if you've got franchise fees or whatever the amount is, there's going to be an expense account. So you're going to choose that account over there, and then obviously put the amount. So you're going to say 100 rand, and it'll obviously show the different invoices where you can then go and allocate the amounts to. So you can say 50 rand on each invoice like that. I think that's probably going to be the easiest way to do it, is just to put through customer adjustments, if I'm reading correctly over there. Let's quickly see the franchise takes 10% settlement discount on the statement. Yeah, so maybe you fiddle around there with custom adjustments. If that is the case, if it's discounts, then you would create an account over here. Say there's discounts and adjustments, then you use that account over there to allocate it to your. I think that's probably going to be the best option to do it that way. Yes, I hope that answers your question. Let's quickly see Daniel. Customers and invoicing. I'm new to accounting and learning as I go along. We produce products sold to stores as well as to private individuals, and have inherited a setup for wholesale and private to our main clients, where wholesale and pricing is set up when the customer has the private orders. Quickly see. As private orders, we need to add 20% to the listed price. How do I go about that? So normally, if you work with different types of customers, if you go to your customers and you go to customers, list of customers, remember over here's the place where you can normally set it up to say which customers uses which price list, you see. So you would go to, let's quickly see, where's that screen over here? It's not often that I work with this one, but you can see over there is your price list that you would use over there. And I think if I remember correctly, that price list, you have to set it up under your company settings, if I'm not mistaken. So that is the place where you would select how many price lists you would have. I don't work with items that often, but I think that is the place where you would need to go see which price list you're going to be using. Let's quickly just make sure. So we produce products sold to stores as well to private individuals, and if inherited setup for wholesale and private to our main clients. Our wholesale and our pricing is set up for this when customer listed private orders need to add 20% to the listed price. So that's the only thing that I can think of over there. I'm not sure when you create invoices over here on the invoice screen itself, where they've got the option there to say which price list you're going to use, because I think it gets set up in the back end, you see. So there's no place over here where you can make a selection to see which price list you're going to use. You can only select the items itself, and you can see that price pulls through there. Where if you go to, let's see if we can find that frame over there. So if I go to customers or list of items, remember that amount over there was 30,000 Rand. So if I go to this first one over here, then you can see over here is my selling price price list. So there's the different price lists that you can use over there, you see. So you can make a second one over there to say 25,000 Rand, 25,000 Rand, and then over there you would then save it, you see. So then, if that client is set up to use the second price list, then obviously that is the place where it will select which price list it's invoicing from. I hope that helps. Let's quickly see Melody. Just quickly pause over here. Right, here we go. So the next question is, what should I do if I allocate the receipt to the wrong account, and how do I fix it? So if you allocate the receipt to the wrong account, and how do you fix it? So normally, if you're inside the banking screen and you over there, let's say for instance you allocated a payment. Let's quickly just see if I can find the payment that you allocated against a specific account. You can then just go to the drop down and change the account itself if there was maybe telephone instead of that. If you allocated to the wrong supplier, then you can just choose the different supplier where it's supposed to be, and then there with the little fork over there you can allocate the payment against the specific supplier invoice to say which supplier invoice it was for. If it was maybe a customer that you allocated to the wrong customer, then you can obviously just change it over there, and then on the little fork over there you can allocate it to whichever invoice it is. So that is the one place where you can do it. Let me just make sure that I understand your question quickly, Melody. The receipt to the wrong account. So I think I did answer your question. So there's another place if you're working with customers and suppliers. If you go to customers and you go to transactions and you go to allocate receipts. So this one over here, you can go reallocate certain receipts. So if you go to a specific customer and you say refresh, if you untick that little box here over there, say refresh again, then you'll see that it will show all the payments from the customer. So then over here, if there's payments linked on the left hand side, just quickly see if there's any payments like this one over here, then you can drag it to the right, and then from there you can reallocate it against the invoice where it's supposed to be. So I'm not sure whether that is what you meant, but that is the place where you can allocate it if you allocated it to the wrong account. Yeah, so just quickly see Bruce Kitter, and I think you probably had the same account, and hopefully I answered your question there. So if it's on suppliers, you've got the same functionality. If you go to suppliers and you go to transactions and you go to allocate payments, then over there you can choose your suppliers. If it's this guy over here, you can untick that box, say show all, and then it opens up. So you can then go and take this payment over here, or if it was a supplier return or whatever, and say that it must be allocated to that one, and that one over there, the second one there. So this is the place where you can allocate supplier payments. Hopefully that answers your question. Let's quickly see. Thanks for the tutorial. So we're talking about supply and payments. I wanted to find out if it's possible to allocate payments made to supplier. For instance, if I bought off a supplier, so how do I allow to allocate that money? So just remember that if you work with suppliers, suppliers, you normally work with cost of sales stuff. So just be careful. If you load supply invoices, you can do it for operating expenses like telephone and rent and that type of stuff as well. But on the selection over here, you can see by default it shows item over there, and then here you can choose an item that is sold. If you haven't got items, you can set it up. But what you've got to be careful is if you work with items, all these amounts over here, your income statement falls under your cost of sales account. So if you're going to start putting operating expenses like telephone and rent and stuff here under items, then it's going to group all that stuff together under your cost of sales, which is incorrect. So if you want to load supply invoices for operating expenses, then go to account, and then on account over there, you say that it's for telephone or it's for rent or whatever that amount is, and then those amounts will then reflect on the income statement as operating expenses and not as part of cost of sales. So just be really, really careful for that. So normally, if you just do normal transactions, let's say for instance you go with a card, you swipe it at CNA, and you buy stationery for the office, then you would go into your banking. Once your bank feed pulls that transaction through onto your bank feed, then it will show something like this. So then you're just going to say account, you're going to say it was telephone or rent or repairs and maintenance, and then after that you just hit save changes. So if your bank feeds are set up, that is the only thing that you need to do. Like I said, if it is maybe for supplier, let's say for instance is for rent or something like that, then you would change it over there to say if you did load the supply invoice and you're renting from this guy for instance, remember you would have loaded the supply invoice as saying rent 46,000 rand, and then they would just allocate it over there. So I think that answers your question. So suppliers, I think just the thing that makes suppliers tricky is it's basically focusing on cost of sales, where operating expenses, you must just make sure that you use account instead of item, otherwise your reports is going to go haywire. Seth, let's quickly see. Just wanted to know if my business qualifies. I have a sales and marketing company. The focus is on lead generations to various corporates. Does this business qualify for the small business corporation tax rate? And that is a good question. I personally don't think that you will, because if you look at the definitions there, they say that if you render personal services, then you can't qualify as small business corporations. But just go check it out. I can't remember them. There's a guide out. So if you look at turnover tax guide, they have a big description over there. Where's the turnover tax guide? I wonder if I've got it on my website. I might have it. Yes. Yeah, here we go. So micro businesses. So if you go to this guide, right at the end, they've got this long list of definitions over here, where they give a lot of stuff to say in more in detail what they see as general descriptions of service fields. So if your stuff falls under one of these things, then you can't qualify as a small business corporation. So they talk about accounting, actuarial sciences, architecture, auctioneering, auditing, broadcasting, consulting. So I think consulting is probably where you're going to fall under. So you've got to just be very, very careful. And the risk that you've got with these type of things is you can look at this and think, I might qualify. So you choose that little box on your tax return. Let's say for instance for 10 years. 10 years later, SARS is going to come back and say, listen, but why did you choose that little box 10 years ago? And if they, in their opinion, say that you shouldn't have used small business corporation tax rates, then they're going to backdate all your 10 years assessments, make you pay the tax that you were supposed to pay, plus penalties, plus interest, and then it's just bad. So if you're not sure, I would suggest that maybe to make a consultation with these guys, tax consulting, South Africa. They obviously almost like tax lawyers, And then even if they charge you maybe 3,000 Rand or something like that to look at your business case, if they give you a letter and say, yes, thumbs up, you can qualify as a small business corporation, you spend 3,000 Rand, but at least you've got proof that you did your homework about this and whether you were entitled to claim the lower tax rates. So just be really, really careful for that, because I had one case probably about 10 years ago where people had the exact same thing, where they claimed these tax rates where they weren't supposed to. The one director, there were two owners of the company. They thought they could qualify, but the partner never informed them that he was a partner of another company as well. SARS picked it up and they reissued all their assessments, and I think they ended up owing SARS millions of rands. I think they tried to sell his house and all that stuff. So rather just be careful with that, because you don't want to sell too close to the wind. Let's quickly see business structures. Ben, so great, thanks for the video. I would like to ask now, I'm a South African national based in Vietnam. I would like to export telecoms such as laptops and desktops to government tenders advertised, starting out this venture first time. What would be the best option for or advice for you to be a sole proprietor company? I needed advice and more insight on that. I think two things. If you're going to be working with governments and tenders and stuff like that, sole proprietors won't work. You have to have a company registered, because you must be able to provide B certificates and tax clearance certificates and all that type of stuff. So sole proprietors, I don't think it will be wise to trade as a sole proprietor. And especially the other problem that you've got is that you say, I'm a South African national based in Vietnam. So because you're not based in South Africa, it becomes a little bit more technical as well, because you have a South African sourced income. And as I mentioned to the previous guy, if you want to start a business structure like that, make an appointment with these guys at Tax Consulting South Africa. They probably have about 120 tax lawyers, so they specialize in these type of things, of business structures. And if you're working overseas, you've got business in South Africa or whatever the case might be, and then they can guide you through the process of what you need to do. But yeah, I would definitely not go for the sole proprietor route. Company, I would say, would be the best bet. So just this thing that you say, the South African national based in Vietnam, I think that just makes me a little bit nervous, that I would think that you need to get a little bit of advice on that one. Let's quickly see. Sage, basic setup. Thanks for the introduction. If I was doing books for multiple companies, would I need multiple Sage accounts for each certain client? It depends. If you can register with Sage as an advisor, then what will happen is at the top of here where it says Super Cycles, if you click over there, if you're an advisor, then you'll be able to access, and they invite you as the accountant onto their platform. Then you'll see that you would have a list of different companies where you can log in. So it's not necessary that you have to use separate login details for everyone. So I have one login details, and on there I can access about 40 different clients from my one login. So I don't think it's necessary to use separate ones. You just need to get in touch with Sage and ask if they can change yours over to advisors platform. But not even, I think if they just use the same email address and if they just add you as a user, so normally there'll be a button over there which says manage users, and then over there they can add you as a user over there. So that is the place where you would do it. Just quickly see customers. Sure. I'm a beginner with Sage and it's very frustrating at times. Please advise how we add additional line in the description for quoting, as from what I'm experienced, there's no way to put such a line underneath. And quickly see if I understand your question correctly. Please advise how we add an additional line in the description for our quoting, as from what I experienced, there's no way to put a line underneath. So if you're busy doing quotes, so if you go to quotes and you go to your quotes over there, just leave this page and now say add quote, and you want to add lines. Normally if you want to describe things, then you would leave it over there. In this one over here you can use a sales account, let's say for instance there, then over there in this description you can write a long description over there, then this little plus sign over here, so your second line, you can add the second line over there. You're going to choose your account once again over there. In the second description you can type in whatever it is that you see, and then you'll see that if you press the print preview, the account and this stuff over here doesn't appear in the print preview. Oh dear, let me just quickly select the client here. So if I do this and I say print preview, then you can see that it's just the description that shows, and you can see that there's lines underneath that, you see. So if you've got one quote price that you're doing, but you've got, let's say for instance, 10 different lines, then I would suggest that make the first couple of ones zeros, and then just put the last one an amount in there, because I think there's a limitation here with something about 200 characters that you can put in your description over there, you see. So maybe that might be one way that you can do that. Or what you can also do, that if you've got, let's say for instance, a very technical thing, and there's like pages and pages of technical stuff that you have to do, then you can always say in your description, you put the full amount of the quote, let's say for instance 100,000 Rand, and then you can see, then you can say quote as per attached document, whatever the case might be, so they have the description on the other document and not on the quote that is on Sage. So that is also another way that you can bypass that. Let's quickly see, I do an unallocated item if I allocate it incorrectly, and they're talking about supplies and payments. How do I unallocate an item if I allocate it incorrectly? I think, Bruce, I did answer that question for you down there when I spoke to the other guy as well. So the answer's over there. I'm sure that he did come right. Quickly see banking. I decided on new accounting software for my law firm, and Sage looks like an easy option. I just wanted to know, would Sage be able to handle double bank account requirements that law firms have, specifically trust to business accounts? I've worked a little bit with trust accounts, and I would, my first option would be to say no, because the trust accounts, you're working with other people's money that you're keeping in a fiduciary capacity. So the problem is just that if you put the money into Sage into one of those accounts over there, that account's got to be audited, and because you've got different people's money inside that account, I'm just not sure how you're going to split it up to say how much money it is that for each person that you're using. What I do know is that there's certain systems out there, like one of my clients is a estate agent, and they obviously work with trust accounts as well. So they, because they work with rentals, so they keep the rental deposits and stuff. So they use a platform called PayProp. They've got an account over there, and then PayProp handles the whole thing, pays them their commissions and stuff like that. So for let's quickly see. So for trust business accounts, I don't personally think that Sage is the right thing for it. I would rather go look for things for law firms, because you would find that there's law firm or software written specifically for law firms. I know with like doctors and stuff as well, you've got the same problem there, because you have to invoice the client and you have to invoice the medical aid. You can't do both at the same time. So just go check it out there. I'm not sure with the Sage, for the basic bookkeeping for internally, it's fine, but I think trust accounts, I don't think Sage is the right answer for that. I'll be interested to see, but definitely law firm software, there must be software that's written specifically for law firms. If you owe such money, let's quickly see. Just wanted to ask if it's possible to classify your income as passive income if you're paying yourself from your own business as a director to avoid being taxed. Mosima, I don't think that card is going to float. Yeah, that card is not going to fly. Any source of income, whether it's interest, whether it's rented income, anything like that, anything that makes your assets grow or money that is accrued to you, you have to declare it as income. You haven't got a choice. So I think that the main thing where people battle with this is if you're working for a salary, let's say for instance you do 30,000 Rand a month, you know that you may be inside the 26% tax bracket at that stage. Anything that you earn extra out of your passive income or out of your side hustle that you've got, make sure that you put 26% away. So when you do your tax return, you have to declare that extra income on your tax return. Make sure that you pay the tax over. Paying tax is not a problem because it means that you're making money. So I don't think to show, it doesn't matter what form of income it is. The only thing where you get a little bit of relief is with interest, where they say the first 23,800 Rand worth of interest is tax-free, but passive income is fully taxable, unfortunately. Let's quickly see. Dashcam Rebel, thanks man, really love your explanations as they go into such details. Yeah, I love those type of comments, thanks man. Let's quickly see. Supply invoices is basically GRV correct. Ghost. Is the way to receive stock and scan the serial numbers into the system in order to later be able to scan the items and see exactly which supplier it came from and when, as well as who it was sold to and when. This is for warranty purposes and stock items. I think, to answer your question, Ghost, I think the Sage by default comes out with a basic stock keeping or the stock system. It is not meant to be advanced type of system. So you'll see that there is a module that you can activate on Sage, which is called Advanced Inventory. So I think if you activate that module, I think you might be able to get some of these things that you require might be built into that system. But I know the default one is very limited. It's basically limited just to buying and selling stuff. But I don't think you'll be able to report into such detail to say from which supplier it was bought and from who it was sold to and stuff. I think it might be a little bit too advanced for the basic system over here. Seth, yeah, here's now interesting question. I'm an aircraft salesman. I have a client that sells jewelry. He wants to purchase a second-hand private jet for 9 million rand. The jet is for business purposes. Can he get the tax write-off on the jet? I think it might be worth it to get a professional's opinion on that. I always tell my clients that I say myself a GP, that I know a little bit about everything, but I don't specialize in anything specific. So if you're talking about jets for 9 million rand and tax write-offs, I would suggest that you make an appointment with these guys from Tax Consulting South Africa. They probably have about 120 tax lawyers working for them, so they like digging into like advanced tax cases and stuff like that. Their opinion is maybe going to cost you 3,000 rand or something like that, but then you can have the right answer what you're supposed to do with that, you see, because the risk that you've got is if you treat this thing wrong, and we're talking about 9 million rand, if you do the tax treatment wrong on that, then and SARS picks it up. The problem is they're not going to pick it up now, but maybe 5 or 6 years from now they're going to pick it up. And if you did that wrong, they can hit you with penalties and interest and all that type of stuff. So pay somebody 3,000 rand, let them give you a tax opinion about it, and then you'll know exactly what to do with it. I personally would not give you any advice. Like I said, it's a little bit of a weird question. So maybe reach out to those guys. Sage banking, very helpful. Sage and FNB are not helpful. Yeah, so I'm not sure why the guys been betting, especially the FNB bank fees. The last couple of months we've been betting with them. Then it's working, then it's not working. The guys, they can't always give us answers. They always just keep on fixing it. Yeah, but they must sort themselves out. Let's quickly see penalties. What's our account to pay the admin penalty? So you'll see, Samson, if you look at your tax number, or if you look at an assessment, you'll see that on the assessment you will have a tax number. It's a long, maybe about 7 or 8 digits with a T, with a lot of zeros behind it, and that is the reference that you must use with the receiver of revenue when you make the payment. And so you'll see the beneficiary will be SARS-ITA is the one that you must use to pay the penalties with. Make the payment next day, log into your e-filing quickly, request a statement of account to make sure that the payment shows. But just be careful with that reference. If you use the wrong reference, so if you use it SARS, instead of using the your tax number with a T with all the zeros, and you just write SARS and pay them 10,000 rand, and that money is just going to be gone. So make sure that they reference that you use the correct one over there. Let's quickly see. Ariane. So yeah, I've got a question. So can a SPC be a PTY limited company? Yeah. There's only PTY limiteds and close corporations that can qualify for small business corporations. Individuals can't qualify for that. I'm the sole employee in my own company. I minus my salary as an expense and then tax the remaining amount. For example, the company makes 500,000 rand in a year, salary is 300,000. So that is correct, yeah. So you would work out that tax would work out on the 200,000 rand. Remember, in your personal capacity, you have to pay tax on 300,000 rand. Then the company will pay tax on the 200,000 rand. So under which bracket will the company be taxed? Companies or SPC tax. So if it's normal companies, remember from the first rand you pay 28%. Small business corporation tax rates, you can go check it out on the website. The SARS website is quickly seen SPC tax rates 2024, because that's a new financial year that we're in. So if you go look at small business corporation tax rates, you can see, oh yeah, new tax rate is 27%. So you can see over here, for the 24 one, is the first 95,000 rand, no tax, then 365, you pay 7%, 21 and then 27%. So that is the tax rate for the new year. So yeah, so you can definitely deduct your salary, the 200,000 rand that left, you're going to tax according to that. So this quick is the vision care. What to do with the supply unallocated payment report? Also, what does this tell me? Supplier unallocated payment report. What is that? What does it tell you? Suppliers reports. Supply unallocated payments. So there's probably payments that you've made that you haven't allocated to a specific supplier. That's the only thing that I can think of what it would be for. Yeah, because that is basically what it is for. So if you probably only banking, you probably chose Eastside Bicycles. That's a payment reference, that is the amount that paid, but it didn't allocate it to a specific invoice, and that is why it's still showing as unallocated. So anything that I can think of. Now, good question. As quick as solar panels. Please explain to me, what does the supply unallocated payments report tell me? So I think I just answered your question for you over there. Graceland, as quick as Sage. Thank you for the tutorials. I just want to ask, how do I change the font size? That I maybe missed the video. I'm not sure whether you can change font sizes on Sage. That's a really interesting question. Normally it would be under company settings if you want to change those type of things. The only thing that you can do is you can just change the size of what it appears on your screen. So if you press Control and you scroll up with your mouse, then it just makes the screen bigger. I think that's the only thing. I can't remember that there's a place where you can change font sizes on Sage, but that's an interesting question. Now, how do you add VAT? So customers and invoicing, Wolf. So what you would do is, if you're on Sage, you would go to company, you go to company settings. I can't access it now because we're obviously on the demo company. There's going to be setting over there, I think it's under general settings, where you've got VAT, and then you would tick the little box here to say that the company is registered for VAT. You would have to put the VAT number in and press save, and then we'll see from there. It will open up the screen or the section over there where you can do VAT allocation. So this thing over here says VAT type. If you haven't ticked that box under your company settings, and this column over here doesn't appear, and you can't do any VAT reporting, then you see where as soon as you go to company, change company settings, go to general settings, VAT settings, then you'll be able to put in your VAT number, and then obviously from there you'll be able to charge VAT on your invoices. Jackie, as quick as you VAT. Yeah, this was an interesting question. If I'm 90% based on what is my options, I can't see how registering for VAT would be my best interest as a small business owner. I would be able to claim back much. Our pricing is also really higher end of the market, and upping it to cover that would probably price us out of the market. Do you have any advice for me? I want to operate within the law, of course, and still pay what is needed, but SARS would like me to understand things better. I'm currently a team of makeup artists who contract out to me, and then I also have an academy. I think, Jackie, this is a really interesting question, and this is always something that a lot of small business battle with, because once you hit that R1 million mark, you haven't got an option anymore. You must register for that. It's compulsory. But now, as you rightly say, is as soon as you go over the R1 million mark, now automatically 15% more expensive than the next person. There's been talks for probably the past 5 years that they want to bring that limit up to 3 million rand, but there's nothing been said on the news for ages. So at the moment you're stuck. You can't really grow your business. You have to keep your turnover below R1 million rand. The only thing that you could possibly do, if you say that I also have an academy, is to maybe split the business up. To say that maybe put the academy, register that in a separate company, and then keep your current company the same. But it's very, very risky, because if SARS picks up that you're trying to avoid tax, then you're going to be in trouble. So just be very, very careful. I would say maybe go speak to your accountant and see what they say. I don't want to give you any advice at the moment on this, because like I said, splitting businesses is a very risky thing. You have to prove that it's not the same owners, that you're not using the same resources, you're not operating from the same premises, then you might be able to get away from it. But if it's just a salon and you're doing makeup over there, plus you're doing the academy at the same space, you're going to really battle to argue that you're not trying to avoid that. So, yeah, so I haven't got a clear answer for you. All that I can say is just be very, very careful. Yeah, it's really sad that they're actually putting this on small businesses because, even if you look at garden services, driving instructors, all those type of guys sit in the same position that as soon as you hit, let's say for instance 85,000 Rand a month, you're pricing yourself out of competition with those guys. So yeah, unfortunately I don't have an answer. The only thing that he could possibly investigate is to see if he can split your business up into two separate businesses, but it must not be related at all. So the academy might work. Makeup artist that contract out to you. The other option that you've got is let them start their own businesses and they pay you a percentage over to you, the percentage that you would have kept for yourself. But then again, it becomes technical or problematic because now you're promoting their businesses and not yours. Income tax. Just quickly, Nelly. Can you explain if you're a Forex trader, how do you pay tax and what can you reduce it by? So if you're trading with Forex, remember you're either making profits or losses over them. So any profits that you make, you're going to have to declare in a tax return, and obviously they will pop it into a tax table, and then according to that, you would have to pay tax. So a nicer website that you can use is if you go to your tax, this one over here, you must just make sure that you change your year that you're using the 2024 tax tables over there. And then you see here's one for year end. So let's say for instance you end up making 50,000 Rand for the year, and you say calculate, and then you can see that there's no tax payable. If you end up making 100,000 Rand for the year, and you say calculate, and then you can see that you've got to pay 700 Rand tax. If you make 200,000 Rand for the year, and you say calculate, then you can see that it's 18,000. Remember that these tax tables, the more you earn, the higher the tax rate becomes. So it's just good to keep an eye on this to know how much money you've got to put away towards your tax. Yeah, and what can you reduce it? They say that if you incur expenses in the production of income, then you can possibly reduce it. So things that you could possibly use is maybe like your internet, maybe some of your cost of your computer and stuff like that. That is basically the deductions you can use. But just be careful not to try and not declare income. You have to declare it, especially these Forex trading platforms. They have to report to the receiver of revenue what profits you make. So they, when you fill in your form, they're just checking whether you're telling the truth or lying. So if you say that you only earned 50,000 Rand, the Forex trading platform tells SARS that you earned 100,000 Rand, and there's a difference, then they're going to come smack you over your fingers. So you'll see that if you work on a platform, I know that my son works on Easy Equities, and no, not Easy Equities, JFX Brokers, I think is the one that he uses. So at the end of the year, they must report through to SARS. Remember when you open up that account, you put your tax number in and stuff, so they send all the information through to SARS. SARS is like the mafia. They know exactly what you earn, so you can't not declare your income. Yeah. So I think to pay tax is not a problem. If you pay tax and if you're not making money paying tax, then it's a problem. But if you're making money and you pay tax, then it's cool. And then it's a good sign because then you want to pay tax. Let's quickly see, Veronica. Thanks for the videos. We're talking about Sage. How do I edit or change an amount in the trial balance? The bank amount is correct. However, the supply invoice it still shows as allocated to the supplier, but it shows as payment as well as doubles up the amount in the trial balance. What would that be? I know that I saw that there was once or twice where I processed supplier invoices that the amounts didn't pull through immediately, so it only like showed the next day. So it might be something like that. How do I edit or change an amount in the trial balance? You're not supposed to have to change anything on the trial balance because otherwise the trial balance is going to be out. Quickly see the bank amount is correct. However, on the supply invoice it shows is allocated to the supplier, but it shows as a payment as well, which doubles up the amount in the trial balance. That's very weird. Because if you look at your banking, if you're paying expenses, remember, if you say that you've got expenses going through your business, there's expenses like this one of your lights and water, account, electricity, and then you can see that is the amount that's going to be on your trial balance, excluding VAT, obviously. if I change this and say that I want to pay a supplier, and I choose any supplier over there, and I say that I pay the supplier 334,000 rand, this transaction doesn't appear on your trial balance. It's only once you capture the supply invoice to say that you spend lights and water 334,000 rand. That amount is the amount that's going to reflect on your trial balance, because you can debit the expense account and you can credit the liability account. So that's the two places where it's going to pop up. Where if you change this over to account and you leave it there as electricity, remember that in the two accounts in your accounting and your trial balance is going to, your bank account is going to be debited with this amount. No, the electricity amount is going to be debited and your lights and water account is going to be credited. So your trial balance must always balance. It can't not balance. If it does not balance, then obviously you need to contact Sage, because then there's a problem with your with the accounting package itself. I've seen it once where trial balance didn't balance on Sage, where they had to go in on the back end and correct the error. It's very weird, but I mean, that's in 13 years. I've only seen it once. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. Ira Nels, people born in the USA, no blame, no choice where to be born. This law is a violation for expats. We have to stop it. Yeah, good luck with that. I agree that some of this stuff is really weird. The expats, they letting the poor people. Here in procedures, where do I find the bank recon for Sage 1 accounting, please? So Basil, if you could check my videos, I did one on banking on Sage, and there I discussed it in quite in detail. But the place where you would find your banking screen, or there, you can see there's the screen for reconcile banking credit cards. I'm not fond of using that one. You'll see if I look at my banking video, you'll find there's another one that I did that I showed you easy about how to reconcile your banking. Yeah, and I think that's it for today. Yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for all the comments. Thanks that I could comment back. And hope you guys find the answers. Cheers.